Welcome to Consciousness and Currency. Really excited for this new awakening and opportunity that we're creating for everyone. Been a wild ride the last few months with Incomation and everything that happened along that journey. But really excited to step into this infinite new way of possibilities and opportunities. The way I see consciousness and currency playing out is, number one, I got to give you a little background on my journey to discover this high level of consciousness. So it goes back about 7 years. I met this man by the name of Don in Vancouver, Canada. It had come through a referral. Two of the top entrepreneurs that I knew in the city, two separate people, both, when I met them, told me how this Don guy was their mentor. And so I was always looking for mentorship. I was receiving mentorship from those two individuals, and I thought, how cool would it be if I, connected with my mentor's mentor, right? And so we ended up going to Don's house, and he had this majestic, beautiful place over, on the rocks of the ocean in Vancouver, and it was a small gathering there of top entrepreneurs and investors in the city. And the one thing that I just noticed immediately with Don, he had this like a crazy bright light about him. I was only, 24 at the time, but I could immediately recognize that this individual was completely different than anyone I had ever met before. And so I was able to connect with him briefly. He gave me a signed copy of his book, and I went home and started reading his book because come to find out at the time it was a $25,000 minimum investment to take his program. And I didn't have that. I was just starting out as an entrepreneur, but I had his book, right? So I was reading his book over and over again, and he had these just mind-blowing, crazy, amazing stories of all different walks of life that just completely transformed their whole reality by taking his process, and all within like a couple hours. One was 38 minutes, like just these crazy fast transformations, where up until then I had already done about 10 years of personal development, and everything about it was, like levels and growth, and you had to go to the next program, the next level, and it was an ongoing thing. Whereas with Don, it was like, boom, completely transformed everything in a couple hours. I'm like, how is that even possible? It was just totally beyond my intellect understanding at the time. And of course, fast forward a few years, because I had just let go of the idea of working with him at the time. I tried to come after him like, hey, Don, I'll do anything, and he was kind and nice to entertain, my willingness at the time, but it just didn't end up lining up. And I started traveling after that, and basically it was April 2020, and this is when pandemic hit, everything started closing down. I was down in Mexico. Don popped up on my Facebook, and I still had his card. I reached out to him, and immediately he started telling me how he was just working with someone, and I didn't understand any of the words, but all I knew was I needed to work with this guy. I had been through a few years of entrepreneurship now, crazy ups and downs, made a lot of money that I thought would make me happy and change my life, and it didn't. Lost a lot, had multiple different addictions, like just a lot of pain in my life, couldn't keep a healthy relationship, just a lot of problems, but externally, on the outside, everyone thought I was doing pretty good. I was traveling around and, being a digital nomad and whatever, but I was suffering big time on the inside. And so when I reached out to him, I was just so ready. And I said, Don, when can we meet? Like, I need to go through this program. I've been thinking about it for years. And he said, well, when are you in Vancouver next? And I thought, shit, the airports are probably closed down right now because of the pandemic, but let me call you right back. I looked up flights, found a flight going through California from Mexico to Vancouver on the Sunday. It was Friday when we were talking. Booked it, called him right back, said, Don, I got a flight for Sunday. When can we meet? And I thought maybe he'd say like sometime during that week. He said, when do you land? I said 11. He said, how about 12? I said, perfect. So I show up in Vancouver and I go out to this Whole Foods parking lot to meet him with a couple friends. I still wasn't sure what I was getting myself into, right? I had only had that one experience at his house years prior, just had a few minute interaction with him, and just knew deep within my soul that I needed what he had, but I didn't know what that was, and I didn't know what the process was going to look like. So there was a lot of fear that was coming up, but it was nervous and excitement, and so I was just willing to do whatever it took to get through that. And when we got to the parking lot and met for a few minutes, I said, like, can my friends join us? He said, no, absolutely not. So I said, okay, sure. So we jump in his Jeep. We go out to the side of the ocean, this cliff with this huge tree, and we get out, and this camera guy pulls up, and it's me, Don, and the camera guy that go in front of this tree. And we sit down, and the camera turns on, and he just starts asking me questions. And okay, well, start answering them, and next thing you know, about an hour and a half later, I knew what he was doing, which is helping me make all these connections in my life that brought me back to the origin of where all my toxic programs and patterns started, where I created the ego when I came to the planet. And since then, I had been suffering and repeating all of those toxic patterns and programs through multiple addictions and everything that I could do, because I was missing that connection with my true self. Hour and a half later, in 1 second, he blows it all out, and I'm in this pure state that I couldn't remember since being born. And I can't even explain it into words of how powerful that moment was for me, but I can tell you, my life did a complete 180. All the addictions went away. I was able to find a healthy relationship. I'm just at peace that I had never experienced up until then. And there is a word for it. It's called ineffable. And that word means that it's so good that you can't even put it into words. And so immediately I wanted to share this. Like, screw the money programs that I was involved with before. I wanted to share this with the world. And I started bringing my close friends and old business partners, everything to Don, and one after another, crazy transformations. And some of them were so fearful after it happened that they immediately went back to their ego system. I have a few examples of that. One example I can give you is a good friend of mine, Joshua, known each other for years. About 5 years ago, he got into a car accident, and he's been in a walker ever since. The doctors even told him he wouldn't be able to walk again, but he was able to within a few months with a walker. Okay, so imagine he's about my age, hobbling around on this walker for the last 5 years. Tried everything, physiotherapy, the church, being prayed on, baptism, all of it, like, tried it all. The day after, I have a video from our mutual friend Josh, who was also there, another Josh. The day after, he throws his walker down and he sprinting on the field. Now you tell me, how does that happen? Well, the message that I want to get across to you is that every problem you've experienced in your life is a direct cause to the level of consciousness that you're tuned into. And every single one of us has gone through an experience in our life, a trauma, that created that ego, created that small self, that little shell, cut our connection like a kinked hose, and we've been playing small ever since up until now, until someone's able to guide you through unraveling that process. So that is a long backstory to tell you how excited I am to bring Don to the community. He's already been working with us in the background. It's been personally my super weapon. I mean, I get a lot of comments from the community of my energy and how I'm able to just gracefully handle everything and go through every challenge like it seems like nothing. Well, I'm telling you, this is the reason why. This is the one thing that unlocked it all for me. So I'm very excited to introduce you all to him. He'll be coming on a call this week to introduce himself, and then the following week we're going to have an opportunity for anyone in the community that's ready to step into. It's about a 2-hour event where he goes through these questions so you can make these connections, and he helps you completely release the ego if you're ready for it. Big disclaimer, what terrifies us the most is how powerful we are. Reminds me of the Marianne Williamson quote. She said, "Our deepest fear is not that we're inadequate. Our deepest fear is that we're powerful beyond measure. It's not our darkness that frightened us, it's our light." And so for me, I was operating my entire life with a literal phobia to my light. Every time I stepped into my true power, I found a way to sabotage it. I found a way to distract myself, to play in my small little ego mind. And so it's the most powerful experience that anyone could have. And I can say that from a position of strength going through it and witnessing hundreds of other people going through it. But it's something that you're going to need to be ready for. It's a simple process, but you got to be ready to acknowledge that pain to be able to get out of it. But from my point of view, it's a lot more painful to continue living in your pain 24/7 for the rest of your life than acknowledging it and getting to the root of it and clearing it. So that's the consciousness side. And the currency side, most of you are already aware of what's happening on that side. Just so excited about the institutional level, actually legitimate trading systems with actual track records, solid systems that we're going to be able to access a higher level of abundance because it's somewhere that we can park our funds and compound and create currency for ourselves. But I'm telling you, no matter how much currency that you attract and bring into your life, there's millions of examples of people that have chased money. Just look at many different celebrities in and out of rehab, overdosed, suicide, because the riches and the fame weren't the answer. And they only realized that when they got to that point, but then they didn't have a solution to get rid of the pain. And what I'm telling you is that we actually have a solution right in front of us with dawn and the consciousness part, which will then just intertwine very nicely with the flow of abundance that you do deserve. But you'll be receiving it and using it from a healthy place. Not like what I experienced when I was chasing money thinking that was the answer. And when I did receive large sums, all it did was fuel my addiction. It just fueled my pain. So really important to have both. I'm so just honored to have this community that's come together, and we're finally in a place that I feel everyone, including myself, is ready to bring it to the whole community. It's going to be a crazy, amazing journey. So that's it for now. I'm excited for all of you. I'll see you next time.